Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we are breaking down two massive economic engines, perfect competition versus monopolistic competition. We're going to do a clean side-by-side whiteboard comparison, so let's just dive straight in.
So here is our roadmap. We're tracking 6 structural splits today: product nature, pricing role, elasticity graphs, mobility, the need for promotion, and finally, market power. Before we hit that first split, let's quickly ground ourselves on perfect competition. We're talking about a market structure with a massive number of producers, and they are all selling a completely homogeneous product. Since everyone is selling the exact same thing, no individual firm can influence the price. Think of those pure agricultural examples from the text, like wheat or rice. One farmer's wheat is physically identical to another's, right? Now, contrast that immediately with monopolistic competition. Here, we still have a ton of sellers, but they are offering somewhat differentiated products. So they aren't totally identical, they're close substitutes. The text illustrates this perfectly with everyday brands you definitely know. Think toothpaste, Colgate, Pepsodent, or soaps like Lux and Pears. They all wash your hands or clean your teeth, but they are uniquely branded and formulated.
All right, split number 1, product nature. Homogeneous versus differentiated. The core difference here is absolutely stark. A perfectly competitive market demands completely homogeneous, identical products. And the text points out this isn't just about physical traits like size and color, but environmental factors too, like where the seller is located. Literally no difference between seller A and seller B. But on the monopolistic side, that market survives on products being close, but definitely not perfect substitutes. They differ in quality, maybe design, or packaging. That differentiation is the absolute beating heart of monopolistic competition.
Moving on to split 2, pricing role. Are you a price taker or a price maker?
What is so fascinating here is the total lack of control for a perfectly competitive firm. They have absolutely zero independent price policy. They are entirely a price taker. Seriously, if they try to raise their price by even a fraction of a cent, buyers will just jump ship to the thousands of other sellers offering the exact same thing. Meanwhile, the monopolistically competitive firm, they are a price maker. Because their product is slightly unique, they actually get to follow an independent price policy and make their own output and pricing decisions.
Okay, split 3, elasticity graphs, where we look at the demand curve math. So under perfect competition, price equals average revenue, which equals marginal revenue. Visually, that perfectly translates to a horizontal straight line parallel to the x-axis. Economists call this perfectly elastic. But in our monopolistic reality, the curve is actually downward sloping. To sell more, the firm has to lower its price, which means marginal revenue drops below average revenue. It's relatively more elastic because of those close substitutes we talked about, but it is definitely pointing downward.
Next up is split 4, mobility, looking at factor movement.
Perfect competition requires perfect mobility. This just means resources, labor and raw materials can switch from one use to another or freely enter and quit a firm without any restriction whatsoever. That is absolutely essential for the free entry and exit of firms to work flawlessly. However, as the text notes, that kind of flawless freedom simply doesn't exist in a monopolistic market. The mobility of the factors of production there is highly imperfect.
Bringing us to split 5, the need for promotion and selling costs. So there is an absolute zero need for selling costs in perfect competition. And why is that? Because every single item is completely identical. A farmer doesn't need to run a multi-million-dollar TV campaign to convince you that their wheat is somehow, wheatier than the neighbor's wheat. It's just wheat. But on the flip side, because monopolistically competitive products are differentiated close substitutes, these firms have to incur massive selling costs just to survive. The source text explicitly lists out things like newspaper advertisements, TV commercials, and even door-to-door campaigns. It is quite literally the only way they can engage in non-price competition and convince you that their specific soap or toothpaste brand is the one you absolutely need to buy.
And finally, split 6, market power and influencing the market.
I love this quote pulled directly from question 9 of the text because it really locks in our final contrast. It says, a firm under perfect competition has no power to influence the market. A monopolistic firm has some market power to influence the price. It's just the ultimate difference between total powerlessness on one side and the ability to actually steer the market on the other. To break that down just a bit further, perfect competition leaves a firm with zero market power simply because they produce way too small a part of the total market output to even be noticed. But look at the monopolistic side. That slight market power they hold is entirely thanks to the product differentiation we discussed way back in Split 1. By making their product just a little bit unique, they manage to carve out their own tiny monopoly within the broader market.
Take a mental snapshot of this master matrix right here. This perfectly summarizes our entire side-by-side teardown. We have traced the journey from homogeneous versus differentiated products right through price takers and price makers, elasticities, mobility, the need for all those TV commercials, and finally to market power. It's just a super clean, direct map of two completely distinct economic engines.
Which brings us to a really fascinating final thought. The text explicitly notes that perfect competition is largely a myth. It's this ideal structure you hardly ever find in the real world. Monopolistic competition, though, that is our everyday reality, just walking down the aisles of the grocery store. So we really have to ask ourselves, in our monopolistic reality of endless soaps and toothpaste, how much extra are we actually paying for just the illusion of choice? Definitely something to think about next time you see a commercial. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and stay curious.